MeteoMark on April 6th, 2013. Let's get right into this severe weather outbreak. I didn't have anybody send me any pictures and videos at this time, any personal pictures or videos that they captured. So we'll probably have some in the coming week with the severe weather outbreak. So let's get right into this. This map I put into motion behind me is the measure of CAPE, convective available potential energy. This is a measurement of amount of instability in the atmosphere, the amount of rise of a particle given, it's a theoretical rise of a particle. If given the right conditions, a trigger, a cold front, a dry line, a warm front, any sort of mechanism, a boundary, a mesoscale boundary, an outflow boundary from a thunderstorm, that sort of thing. And I will do a video on that explaining exactly how thunderstorms form and how to measure and how to look up stuff on models and such to look for that sort of mesoscale features. But for now, I'm going to focus on the big picture here, and let me step off to the right here to show you exactly across portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, and parts of north central Texas on Monday and Tuesday. We do have CAPE values. The red is between 1,500 and 2,500 joules per kilogram, and the actual amount of fuchsia colors here just east of Oklahoma City late on Monday afternoon to early Tuesday, that measures upwards of 3,200 joules per kilogram. And that is a lot of CAPE. Usually, typically, if you have more than 2,000 joules per kilogram, that is an appreciable amount of CAPE, meaning we have enough instability to create explosive thunderstorm development. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what we could see. Now, the measure of CAPE, this sort of measurement does not mean that there will actually be thunderstorms. Let's take, for example, up here in the mid-Atlantic. You can see towards Monday and Tuesday, towards the latter portion of the frames into Wednesday, we do have some blues and some light greens, which are indicative of 500 joules per kilogram, anywhere between 250 joules per kilogram and 500 joules per kilogram. Well, that shows that there will be some CAPE across the northeast and mid-Atlantic, but that doesn't mean there's going to be any thunderstorms. There's going to be a frontal boundary moving back and forth, wobbling back and forth across the mid-Atlantic, and that will keep things kind of on the cloudy side, cool side. Well, warmer than you have seen it, but cool side relative to what severe weather outbreaks usually need for a good amount of instability. You need a good amount of humidity, moisture, you need a good amount of heat. You don't always need heat, latent heat for that matter, but portions of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, that's where we'll be seeing a lack of thunderstorms, even though it will be some CAPE. So CAPE does not mean that you'll actually get thunderstorm development. It's the potential for thunderstorm development based on the amount of energy that would arise from whether a particle could rise from the surface of the ground up to a theoretical point 3, 4, 5 kilometers up, depending on how high the thunderstorm area would be developing across the area. So basically what you have is you have a thunderstorm, and if the amount, depending on how high that cloud is, that cumulonimbus cloud, would depend on how much CAPE would be for that given area at a particular time, how high that parcel varies. So usually the taller thunderstorm clouds are the result of higher CAPE. So we're going to be looking for that across the central plains, heading on into the southeast. Let's get right into those maps. On Sunday, we're going to be looking at the highest threat being across Kansas, panhandle of Oklahoma, eastern Colorado, and that's where we'll see damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes. Monday, we progress that a little bit further east towards Wichita, just west of Kansas City, Oklahoma, and down to Lawton, Wichita Falls, Dallas, portions of Texarkana here, just west of Springfield, Kansas City, these areas, and possibly extreme southeastern Nebraska. We'll see on that. And Tuesday, then the threat expands and it heads southeast towards just towards St. Louis, Memphis, extending down towards Jackson, Shreveport, portions just north of New Orleans, over towards possibly as far east as Mississippi, and extending towards Tuesday evening portions of western Alabama here. So that's where we'll be looking at. Basically the energy will follow this sort of pattern, and I'll show you it on the big picture map here pretty shortly. And then on to Wednesday, the severe weather threat diminishes, but it kind of heads down towards the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia, and southern Alabama, and extreme southeastern Louisiana, just southeast of New Orleans here. So that's what we'll be looking at for severe weather during the next 4 or 5 days. Now let's get right into the big picture map here. We got this huge trough here that's going to be digging across the Rockies. That's why things are going to get so cold out west. And this trough is going to be negative enough to actually produce a storm on the east side of it, southeastern Colorado here. And that storm is going to head northeastward, basically along this warm front that sets up, and then it turns into a stationary front in the northeast. And that stationary front's going to get very interesting in the northeast. We could see some snow on the backside of this system, possibly northeastern Colorado, parts of Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, and extending up towards portions of Alberta and Manitoba up in Canada. So we're going to be looking at these severe thunderstorms, the greatest risk, the highest risk, being Monday evening into Tuesday across portions of eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, southern Missouri, and extending down towards Arkansas, Texarkana, northeastern Texas, northern Louisiana, and western Mississippi. This is going to be the real problem area in this fuchsia color. So if you're in the fuchsia color, keep a NOAA weather radio handy for warnings and watches and that so forth. So that's what we're looking at for, and then heading up into, you see this orange shading here? This is where we'll have general thunderstorm development. We're not looking at anything severe. We'll have those elevated thunderstorms where the cape is lower and we don't get any severe updrafts or downdrafts creating any large hailstones or damaging winds for that matter. So the orange area is just general thunderstorm development. Green, of course, is the rain, and then further north is the snow. So that's what we're looking at for the general setup, the pattern setup that's going to set up this possible epic severe weather outbreak. It's not going to be the worst case scenario, but there's enough instability to create a problem possibly for some tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. Getting into the temperatures, gets very interesting across the northeast later in the period. We start out kind of chilly in the 40s, 30s and 40s. Up here in the west, we're going to really cool down over the next couple days here into the 30s and 40s, 50s along the coast. But it's here in the Central Plains. We get into the 80s up here, parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, down towards Louisiana. And that spreads eastward. And you see on the backside of this system, we get that cool pull pocket of air, creating that snow on the backside of the low. But it's here in the northeast towards Tuesday and into Wednesday. That's where we get into this baroclinic zone with this difference in temperature is really great. This is where we could see Syracuse, New York held down in the mid to upper 40s on the north side of the front, and then just south towards Harrisburg could be approaching 75, maybe 77, and portions down towards DC could be approaching 80 in certain circumstances here. So heading into Thursday. So this front will really play a role in temperatures, and it will be really interesting to see for people traveling 1 or 2 states north and south in the mid-Atlantic, and even on into New England here. This could be quite a problem, and more pronounced possibly because the White Mountains heading down into southern New England. You could really see a warming effect as you go from, say, New Hampshire and Vermont heading down into Massachusetts and parts of Rhode Island and Connecticut. So we'll have to watch for that, the exact position of the front, and it will create a lot of clouds and moisture, kind of keeping the temperatures down slightly. So if we head right into, that's pretty much it for most of the country. We don't have much else to talk about at this time, other than the possible epic severe weather outbreak that we could be seeing. Well, the first major severe weather outbreak in portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and spreading further eastward across much of the forecast area. So that's going to do it for MeteoMark. Like me on Facebook at MeteoMark. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Website, MeteoMark.com. Don't forget to send in your pictures or videos if you have anything really interesting, over the top, nature related, sky related, weather related, anything like that. And here's a 4-day forecast for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira, the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania. We start off the forecast period here, heading on into Sunday in the portions of the Susquehanna region, low 60s, upper 50s on the hilltops. Things will start to get warmer as that warm front pushes through. We'll see a threat of showers towards evening on Sunday. Heading on into Sunday night into Monday, we'll have those threats of showers. Monday could be looking upwards of, say, the low 60s again, possibly pushing 65 in some of those warmer valleys in northeast Pennsylvania. And then heading on into Tuesday, this is where we really get the front moving just slightly north into Cortland and Ithaca. So this will put us into the warm sector, 65, 68. Some areas could crack 70 down towards Scranton. And we'll have that threat of showers continuing on into Wednesday as well. And temperatures will come down a bit because the stationary front should push just south of the New York-Pennsylvania border by then. That should drop us down into the 50s across much of New York. But heading down towards Scranton and the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania, we could be approaching 70 once again. That's going to do it for MeteoMark.